the lounge show. I was asked famously to be the announcer for that show, and at the time I didn't see the vision. Like most people, I underestimated the program and its hosts. Foolishly, of course. Later, I came crawling back on my hands and knees, begging for the job, but force by that time. It had already been given to Latbat, so I had to graciously accept my defeat and learned a valuable lesson.
It's The Lounge Show with Rob Scott and Bob Doyle, two veteran broadcasters who love to hear themselves talk and are somehow able to tolerate each other. Let's see if you can tolerate them as well. Here's Rob and Bob.
Oh my God. I think it's my first day. I forgot how to do everything.
Broadcast veteran, my ass.
Yeah.
There was like 14 things going on there.
I know. Whenever I push the wrong button instead of the applause, I hit the music thing, and that's just never right. That's never what I mean to do. Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Bob Doyle in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh, I'm Rob Scott in Atlanta.
It's 9 o'clock on a Saturday.
Which means it's time for the Lounge Show, and I'm Bob. We did that part. Amy is here in the room, ladies and gentlemen. First one to chime in right away.
I'm sitting a lot lower than you am. I know you look tall in your shot here. Why don't I bring this down?
All right.
So there. That makes us look a little like we're the same height. Although I think you're taller than me, aren't you? Seriously. Aren't you a little taller than me? How tall are you?
6 even.
Oh, then you're taller than me. Yeah. Yeah, I'm a paltry 5'9", 5'10" on a good day.
Oh, okay. On a good day.
Yeah.
What constitutes the good day? What makes you taller? What's a tall day? What does that
A tall
mean?
day.
Yeah.
Endorphins are firing.
Okay. Yeah.
Well fed. No aches and pains.
Sense of purpose. Something driving you through the day.
Sense of purpose is it would be nice just to have a pain-free day. Not that I have all that lumbago, grumpy old men.
Lumbago.
Yes.
Well, we got another Sponholz in the house, ladies and gentlemen. Now we've got Kara.
Well, hello, Carol. Why, folks are right on time, man. They're in their seats. They're ready to go. The lounge is open on a Saturday.
Good, because, man, oh, man, the past couple of weeks, people have been a little quiet out there. Of course, we know now it was a big technical thing. There was a big, cut in the internet. And it cut off all the streams of comments. In fact, the whole reason it went down was because there were so many comments. Because I said, "Hey, wait, let us know if you're there," and then it literally melted the cable. So, anyway, that was on us. So luckily, they seem to be streaming it at a comfortable rate. Plus, of course, we bought that entire other, trunk line of fiber, so that
trunk line.
I think that's the term. Look.
Well, yeah.
I wasn't at the tech meeting.
No, I think when I was a kid, my mom hung all our clothes on the trunk
line. Yeah, you weren't supposed to, because.
Did your mom do that? Seriously, when you were a little boy, did you?
Oh boy.
Did your mom hang clothes on a clothesline?
Not really. We had a dryer, I think, for the most part. But sometimes, now I'm kind of having memory. I don't know, Mom. You're out there, right? You watch every week, because why wouldn't you? What are you doing on a Saturday night that's so freaking important? Reading your millionth book of the month? Jeez, how smart can you get? Sorry.
Ask the dumb guy. That was a question from dumb people. They always ask that question. How smart do you need to be?
Well, I guess I just identified myself then, huh?
Yeah, my mom did, and we had a dryer, but she still did. She hung clothes in the backyard
just for fun or whatever.
No, save energy.
Oh, right.
Every nickel, boy, squeeze I mean it. Squeeze everything out of every nickel. You two huddle together like squirrels. You've got your second nickel. Remember that from Parenthood? Oh, you two. Jason Robards at the meal. The two of you.
Yeah. I needed a little context. I needed character context, which you gave me.
So
I still, whenever I see Keanu Reeves in an interview now, and he's always looking like John Wick. Right. I just think of him as Todd.
Boy, he was good in that
Todd.
role.
That Todd.
Yeah, that Todd.
Yeah.
He was good in that role. Ms. Buckman. Buckman. Yeah, I don't know, Ms. Buckman.
That's one up little dude. And then, of course, that's freaking Gary, Joaquin Phoenix, who goes on to freaking, do what he's
Joker.
doing. Yes.
Yeah.
Which I won't ever watch that. That's like
Johnny,
not on my
Walk
list.
the Line or the Joker or both?
The Joker. I actually saw I Walked the Line, I think, a couple of times by accident. Just caught it on TV, watched it.
Well, so you've never seen the Joker?
No.
Or it's not the Joker, it's just called Joker, I think.
Right,
the name of the movie.
Joker. No, and really, any of the Dark Knight stuff. When the Joker, Heath, Ledger, I didn't watch any of that stuff. It was like, all right, now it's not fun anymore. Now now it's got to be gross too. Come on.
My goodness, Bob, what happened to you since we last spoke?
I haven't changed at all. You know this about me. I like a movie that just makes me feel good, or if I'm in the mood, like for a twist, like I'll watch an Angel Heart, which I was just thinking about yesterday. Like,
that's kind of rough for you, isn't it? Angel Heart.
It's It's all about when I saw it in my life, and the association and stuff. So instead of it being like gross or whatever, however it might have hit me later, it's all just part of that time and those people and just the vibe. And it had a very definite vibe. It was a great Mickey Rourke and Robert De Niro, just really good stuff. It was a good dark movie. If anyone's
Dr. Huxtable's daughter.
Yes, Lisa Bonet, very controversial role there.
She was in her birthday suit a few times, if memory serves.
That's correct. There were, it was a big stink on the set. Ironically,
it was. No, there was a lot of stuff going on because of that. It was, the Cosby Show, and then she does this racy, satanic whole thing, and there's nudity. It was messy for you. That's a messy film. For Bob, that's kind of a messy film. By the way, I don't know if we spoke about this last time or two times. It doesn't matter how many times. Speaking of movies, A Man Called Otto.
Yeah, I know it's out there, but I haven't watched it.
Ooh, Bob, I highly recommend it to you. I highly recommend this movie to you. How
am I going to feel when I leave, though?
Well, now that's interesting because I had a coworker ask me, because I came in, on Monday or whatever, and said, I saw a movie over the weekend. It was great. I really liked it. I think you would, Allie. I was telling my friend Allie. I said, Allie, I think you're going to like this. And her dog one of her dogs had just passed away like a few days before. And you know how that can be. You lose a pet. It's a family member. And he was 12 or 13. So she had Teddy. Anyway, the reason I bring all that up is I said, you should see this movie, A Man Called Otto. It's with Tom Hanks. And I really think you're going to like it. And she goes, is it happy or sad? And I said, yes.
Yeah.
And so she goes, I think I'm going to wait a little bit.
Yeah.
Because she's not in the mood to consume any Debbie Downer stuff.
Right. And I never am. Like that's just so rare that like I'm in the mood really just to watch anything. I was talking because Amber likes to watch movies all the time, and she's trying to get me to watch Lilo and Stitch. Like, I've never watched it. I have no interest. And she's literally badgering me to watch this movie. And I'm like,
that movie, isn't there?
What's that?
Isn't there a badger in that movie? Isn't it about animals? Aren't they animals?
I have I think it's an alien thing. I really don't know.
Okay. Is it animated? Is it animated?
Yes.
Okay, it's a cartoon.
Yeah, and I missed it completely. So, and I had still have no desire to watch. And I think the thing about me, it's like my question about anything I'm asked to watch is that I ask myself is how emotionally invested am I going to get in this? Because, that's a big deal for me. I don't want to I got to be in the mood and ready to watch something. And like the other day though, did you see The Love Guru with Mike Myers back from?
It was so freaking painful, but yes, that was unbelievably painful.
We laughed we laughed a lot because we're in the industry, and everything that they were poking fun of, like we know these people. And so, yeah, it hit us on a totally different level. And I loved watching all the cameos and stuff like that. But to us, obviously, and I even asked, I think later, I said, I wonder if this lands with people who aren't in the industry at all. Because this is a lot of inside, and that's why we're laughing.
That was the one with Dudley Moore where he's the ad agent, Crazy People.
Yeah, I didn't see that one.
Okay, and that's advertising. So I was belly laughs in the theater, and Kim, because this is years ago, we went on a date, and she was embarrassed by my just balls to the wall laughter. I thought that was perfect.
Okay,
And
so there you go.
Inside baseball,
Yeah.
it was about advertising and the slogans. I'm not going to go into it, but the premise was he has a mental breakdown. His wife leaves him, everything. He's this ad stud. And then he goes, screw it, I'm just going to write real stuff. I'm going to tell the truth. And then the wrong kit goes to the printers, blah, blah. There's a mix up. And, there's a mix up at the lab.
At the lab. I was going to say it's always the lab.
Right. And
why do we send stuff down there?
The lab. So things get mixed up at the lab.
It's a real boys club down there.
Yeah, it is. And so anyway, that was, but so I didn't even know that till you just said it. I didn't know anything that it was parodying anything.
Oh yeah.
It was industry. I did not know that. So yes, it's very.
Oh wow.
inside.
So that's very interesting. Like that wasn't even that part of the experience. So yeah, you would, so it was
just silly Mike Myers stuff to me, man. It was just like silly Mike Myers.
Yes, and it was that layered on stuff that we could connect with. So, but that's interesting. So it didn't even land like it was a parody of that for you. It was just a bunch of goofy crap he was stringing together.
I knew he was a self-help guy, but I didn't know that there were all those little inside baseball jokes that I'm sure you went ha ha and third ha, just like the ad agent.
Tracy was she was saying she hasn't belly laughed like that she can't remember how long. Like, so that's the difference of where that landed.
Kim wanted to leave the theater. I was laughing so loud, and there weren't many people there to begin with.
That's good.
So it wasn't even a full theater. It was like, maybe half full at the most. And I'm just like a bellows. Ha, ha, ha. I was one of those badass laughs, man. I just thought it. So now look, I learned.
I wonder if that's seeable. If that movie Crazy People is out there somewhere.
I think Crazy People? Yeah. I think nowadays you can watch just about anything. Seriously. And if it's
sure.
not on,
I just mean on one of the majors that I can easily
find. Amazon Prime pretty much will let you see anything in the world. They'll just rent it to you. They're the blockbuster, I think.
Yeah, that's true. But I always like to check. I always like to check our subscriptions because we've got Max, we got
which
Peacock,
I think is good.
And
I don't look at it much.
But Peacock, right? I mean, this is one of those ones I was bamboozled in by Amber somehow. Like she needed it to watch a thing, so it was a 7-day trial that we then needed to cancel. And now we still have it, but there's The Office on there, and so she watches.
Fine. But that's the Columbia Record Club. You're just gonna get and then I'm gonna quit. I'm gonna get my 10 albums for a penny. And then I'm going to quit. I'm going to sign in all the stuff and send it back to Terre Haute, Indiana. And you never do. And then Chicago 11 shows up in the mail and they want 2816 or something for the album.
I did that with my first DVDs. I know I got like the soundtrack to Blade Runner. I got a Robert Palmer album. I'm trying to remember.
I got Songs of Life and I got Elton John. I bought Ohio Players, Honey. I had this it was a good starter kit, of LP.
I remember the vibe, almost the smell of my first CD player. It was $199. I remember that. And it was like this sleek black beauty. My friend Brent had one first. I've told you about Brent many times. He had one first, and I'm listening to CD, and I drank the Kool-Aid. It was like, it's so clean, it's perfect, blah, blah, blah. You can hear everything. I so remember sitting in Brent's apartment listening to CD for the first time. And then when I finally got my own, I listened and listened and listened over and over, especially to the Robert Palmer.
Do you know which one that was? Is it the one with...
Riptide I think it was Riptide. I think that was the name of the album, too.
All right. Okay.
Weekend special.
It is hot outside, ladies and gentlemen. We are right on the cusp of summer here in Las Vegas. So I'm going to say it's, 90-something.
It's funny because I normally have the temperature on my screen, but right now I know that San Francisco and Baltimore are about to get underway in Major League Baseball. Sometimes this little feed thing just brings me the weird... Dow is up. Well, I don't care. So, my Windows, whatever, or the browser. It doesn't matter. Point is, I don't have... wait a minute, I can do it. That's 79 degrees in Atlanta, 79 degrees. So I wanted to do this because last week, for those of you who were here last week, and by the way, last week's marketing slogan was Chad Spiney will be on the show, the tornado expert, Chad Spiney. But I didn't get this week's marketing piece.
It's pronounced
so I have no idea.
Spinny.
Okay, fair enough. I did not know. All I remember is we did this last week, and I was bringing you up to speed. That's the sizzle. That's because it's the only grilling sound effect I have.
That reminds me about this too. That's late. I have to hit that. There we go. Now, I got click happy. There we go.
Okay,
So yeah, so
look
the
at that.
grilling. Now
the
talk
grilling.
about the grill as we're looking at a lake. That's better.
Well, for those of you who weren't with us, I was still in the middle of a low and slow barbecue cook.
Yes.
And as it turns out, it took till 11 o'clock. So it was a 12-hour cook.
Wow. Okay.
And I pulled that off at around 11 o'clock last Saturday night after the show. We got off and then I pulled it out and I threw it in a cooler and I just covered it in put it in the cooler with the towel and I was going to let it rest. I fell asleep on the couch, woke up at 4 a.m. and on the couch and I said, look at this, boat's coming into the pier. How nice. Said, let's get up to bed instead of just, and I couldn't, the curiosity got the best of me.
Yes, of
and
course.
And I had to go check, and because I thought it's going to be all screwed up. It didn't cook right, but no, it was wonderful. It just fell apart. The blade shoulder bone slipped right out. It just turned out so perfect. And the moral of the story, Bob, is this: when you trust the thermometer. That's the story. Trust the thermometer. Do what you're supposed to do, and if it takes longer, well, it takes longer. And it just came out beautifully once it got to 200 degrees. It just took forever to get there. It was like 185 when we were doing the show.
I hope the boys and girls at home took heed or taking heed. Trust the freaking thermometer. The temperature doesn't lie.
No. And so, but you think, I goofed something up. It's just not.
That's why did you think that? Why would you automatically go there?
I didn't automatically go there. I eventually, though, oozed into that mindset, and you start to doubt your own knowledge. And speaking of barbecue, I went over to Jonesy's today because he said, my friend Chris Jones, and we've done a lot of barbecue cooking together in the past. He worked at the old shop, and he said, come on over. We're doing something interesting. So I went over there around noon today just to see what they had that they thought was interesting. And Bob, it was interesting.
Oh.
They threw into the smoker last night around, 10 p.m. at 220.
Okay.
220 degrees for 12 hours. That was their idea. We're going to cook it at 220 for 12 hours. And it was a pig, a whole pig, not huge hog, but a small one that was deboned, right? And then they put a turducken inside.
A turducken? Inside the pig? Yeah.
Yes. So they have a turducken inside a pig, and that whole thing went in the smoker.
Okay.
And boy, oh boy, was it good. It was so because then everything comes out in sections. So you had all this barbecue, like chicken and duck and turkey and pork, and just it was awesome. And they did something I never gave thought to. They did their macaroni and cheese in the smoker. A whole pan of macaroni and cheese at 220. It takes about 3 hours. Because the temperature is low, right? And so the whole top has this crispy, smoky flavor, macaroni and cheese.
Sounds good.
It was so fun. How about it, huh?
Oh, I haven't been to a meaty cookout in a hot minute.
I know.
Well, that sounds so good. Something like that where there's...
Oh, man. And so I've been eating a lot of barbecue. In fact, I also had barbecue Thursday night because, a couple of our P1s here on the lounge, Sammy and Ben. Ben graduated.
That's right, ladies and gentlemen. Let's hear it for him.
Well, Ben, yeah.
He may have been mentioned last week. I can't remember.
Well, I know I may have told you I was going, but went this past Thursday, so it was very nice.
Oh, okay.
I really enjoyed it. And I was talking with Ben's father, and we were talking about the fact that even a college degree is 4 years, but an apprenticeship like this, when you're in skilled trades. In fact, there was other classes. I think there was a plumbing class that also graduated with his HVAC class, but that takes 5 years. But the difference is, and here's boys and girls, not only should you trust the thermometer, but the other lesson from the lounge today is, there's nothing wrong with a skilled trade. 5 years instead of 4. It takes a long time to learn that craft well. But while you're learning, you're drawing a paycheck. Big
Right.
difference from college where you're just shelling out the money.
That's right. Don't
You're
even
learning-
get me started.
I know that you've always been, well, you not always, but for a good portion of your life now, you've definitely been one who advocates the idea that college isn't the only path to success.
Yeah, I'm going to say I was that by my sophomore year. No, well, I knew that. That was actually, I went there, as you'll recall, my story was I went to college for a quarter and said, this isn't for me. I'm going to go to Atlanta and get a job in radio, and ended up working at Chuck E. Cheese. So bruised ego had me go back to school, not any sort of idea that this is what I should do. Because I already knew I wasn't going to learn, like get better at my broadcasting craft, especially once I got a job. Once I got a job in radio, I'm like, and their, even though their equipment was not state of the art, the schools was way not state of the art. And I'm like, this is ridiculous. We're spending all this money so that I can get a piece of paper that says that I know what I'm doing right now. And maybe it helped me get the job at WSB, I guess, right? Maybe.
Well, I know there are stats out there that say any job that starts at X salary, blah, 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 career type job, what do they say, 65, 70% are college graduates?
I guess that's got to be changing, though. That's got to be a stat that's changing rapidly.
I don't know. I don't have those numbers in front of me.
Yeah, well, why don't you get them next time? What the hell is this? We just come in here not prepared? You got no numbers? No, I think that definitely is going to change, if it's not already changing. College is clear, people are waking up big and in massive quantities. And with the educational opportunities online to learn what you want to learn without having to go spend tens of thousands of dollars to learn it.
I will say this, and yes, dollar for dollar, we could sit here all night and debate whether it's worth the money. That I won't even go down. That's another kettle of fish. What I will say is, though, I learned a lot of things that weren't school-based.
Yes, I know. I know.
I really did.
And so would a person who went out in the world at that age that the person who went to school wouldn't learn. So it's a trade-off.
Correct.
Yeah.
No, you're right. What they can't do, though, is still stay home, and then you haven't gotten out in the world. That's the event. You go off to campus and you're with a bunch of other people who don't know how to do their laundry and how am I going to cook a burger? I mean, all the little things that organize your time, which I did so poorly. It's unbelievable, but you try and you kind of have to fend for yourself a little bit, how to get to and fro. Oh, I got to get home. I got to get over to the, I mean, there are aspects of grown-up life that slowly hit you.
Yeah, I don't think it's worth the trade-off. I don't think it's worth the trade-off in the loss of years and the expense out. You could be especially today, you could be doing what you love right now. You could be getting the training for a fraction of the price. And you don't have to live with your parents. You could still go out there. You're still going to have to deal with the world. And I would submit that you will be dealing with the world sooner than the person who goes to college and lives in that fantasy world, which it is to an extent. So I'm not saying college isn't for everybody. I mean, I'm just saying that there's a lot of people who go that route who don't need to.
I met lifetime friends.
Yes,
Tim Mahoney being
yes.
one of those. He's also a good friend of yours.
But you would have met him out in the real world too. Again, you're gonna meet people who are your friends for life. And you're going to share the bond of whatever the experience is. In your case, it's school, or maybe it's the work or whatever. Yeah. And that's your path for this lifetime. If I could do it all again, knowing what I know now, I would probably definitely take a different route. But I would need today's technology. It's not the same, Didn't have the abilities that we have. Boy, sorry, we just went off on a freaking tangent. So Tracy's in Los Angeles. With Amber, They're watching a show. They went out there to see actually, the show was last night. Some dude named Steve Lacy, who I've heard a couple of his songs because Amber plays them, and I really like them. They got a good vibe. But so they did that, and of course there's all sorts of weird stories because they didn't know he was playing last, and they were rushing to get there from here, and blah blah blah, and they rushed, thought they were late, and then they were 5.5 hours early.
Yeah.
So, but now they just called just a little bit ago, right before the show, from the beach. They're at Santa Monica Pier, so you see all that activity, and the wind is blowing, and they're having a great time. So,
what else would wind do other than blow?
Hey, now that is a very good question. You say wind, it's just redundant, isn't it?
It is. When you say and there's wind there, you don't have to say it's blowing.
You're right.
It has to be blowing to be wind, doesn't it?
Doesn't it?
We'd have to ask Chad Spiney, the tornado expert. Spinny. So here, speaking of movies, you and I were talking about movies a little bit ago. You really like Spiny. That's what I would go with. Spinny should have two N's.
Oh, it doesn't it? It's supposed to.
No, it's Spiney. That's
Oh,
Spiny
well, that was
to
a
me.
typo. That was a typo on my
Okay.
part. That's
So today I was on imdb.com, which I go there from time to time at
Heard
the
of it.
Internet Movie Day. And so I was looking up something, and for whatever reason, I saw Officer and a Gentleman.
Okay.
The little one sheet, the logo, the poster. Do you remember that film? Do you remember seeing that film?
I never did watch it. It just that whole genre of stuff wasn't my thing. But I'm very familiar with it.
And kind of when it showed up, and where around the same time, Urban Cowboy with John Travolta came out about the same time.
Also, didn't watch that.
Yeah, but I was wondering. I didn't think so. But here's the point of my story. Officer and a Gentleman came out in 1982. 1982.
Okay.
Which is, I have to look down because I did the math, which is 40 plus years ago. 40 plus years ago. Then I thought to myself, when I was 20 years old, and then go back 40 years, what year was that movie that was 40 years old?
Right.
The reason I picked it up is because if I'm talking to some kid at work now and I go, hey, Officer and a Gentleman.
Right.
And
what's
then
what's the reference? Right. What's the similar reference? I think about this with music. I think about this with music all the time. So what
if I was 30 years old when that movie came out, which I was younger than that at the time, but let's just say I was 30, like a lot of the gang at work is in their early 30s, then that would be a movie from the early 50s. The early 50s. And when I looked at movies that would have been from the early 50s, I would have went, well, that is really old. It's black and white.
And irrelevant. I wouldn't have watched any of them.
There it is.
It's maybe would have heard of some of them, maybe.
Right.
The big ones.
So then I'm doing the math, and I'm thinking if I was 20, a movie that was 40 years old would have been from the 40s, World War II. The 40s, the early 40s. It could even be pre-war, for goodness sake.
Right.
My point is, when I was 20 years old, that was a million years ago,
right,
man.
But and we reference it like it was a few years ago. Like, oh, yeah, Officer Gentleman. It was a while back, but...
It was a while back. Deborah Winger was kind of hot. Yeah, there. And it had Richard Gere, and he was an Army guy, I think, something like that. And yeah, right.
He was an officer and a gentleman.
It was both. You got 2 for 1 on your ticket price. That's the point. And so I thought, but when did this happen? Well, I know when it happened, man. But woke up one day and I just wasn't. Although I've decided now when they give me crap at work, when they're giving me for fun, I mean, it's a great place. I love work. But I'm the old guy or whatever. My retaliation is going to be, I'm not old. I'll be there soon enough. That's going to be my new line, that I'm not old right now. I'll be there soon enough. I don't feel old. I can still get around. I can still.
Yeah, that's what they all say. That's the first sign.
Fair. Kevin and Mark and I always talk about that with singing. We made a pact years ago that we said, when the first one goes, and it'll happen, the other two have to say, not anymore. Sorry. We had a guy in choir 100 years ago named Bill Jordan, and Bill Jordan sang incorrectly with enthusiasm. He sang wrong, and he did it with confidence, man. And so we would always go, how doesn't he know? And then we came up with the idea that maybe he was good at one time and still thinks he is.
Hmm.
And so that's when we made the pact.
Sure.
Said,
so when one of you just isn't hitting it anymore, but then what if it's you? And then what if you don't see it?
Well, that's why the other two have to say, no, you're not going to see it.
Well, I'll tell you what, there's the difference between you now taking that and then the drinking version of you.
Oh, my goodness. Can you imagine?
If you had been the odd man out, boy, oh, 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 boy.
Yeah, can you just imagine? That would have been not good. But that's not that, in fact, Jonesy, speaking of going seeing him, he's at 4. He just hit 4 years. He was one of the people who kind of was a cat. In fact, it was interesting. I kind of got him off to the side and I go, hey, you still on the wagon, still not drinking? He goes, did you see Shell? That's his wife, Michelle. You see Shell? I go, yeah. He goes, yes, I'm still sober. In other words, if he ever fell off the wagon, we wouldn't be seeing his wife anymore.
And with those words, those were the words they chose. I kid you not. Those were the words. So when those words came out, they decided that's when they were going to end the show. They could have done, I don't know, countless other things, but they chose that sequence of words to end it. And this is how we're left with the show. I don't get it. I don't think I can watch anymore.
You've been watching The Lounge Show with Rob Scott and Bob Doyle. Join us every Saturday at 6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern, and tell your friends and family to do the same. After all, we'd do it for you if you had a show. Probably.
What are we going to do, Bob?
Well, we're safe for now. Thank goodness we're in a bowling alley.